And I'm here with Hamish Clark from Stag's Yarrow,
Hello.
the Doom ambient piece of art. I don't know what else to call it. I was trying to think of something.
Yeah.
So, Doom and ambient together, they seem to me like they shouldn't work. But you somehow make it work.
Yeah, I think that doom metal is a very obviously spacious, kind of dark, airy genre anyway. And then so if you kind of mix that with that kind of dark folky kind of vibe, it's just like dark and airy, it's spooky music.
True. Yeah. I guess when I always think of ambient, I don't. It's kind of weird enough. I don't watch enough horror movies. Like I don't really think about like scare. Like always like when I listen to ambient music, I don't listen to it to be like creeped out. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying?
No, I get that. Like, if you type just ambient playlist on Spotify, it'll
Mm.
come up with some real soothing,
Yeah.
music to study to or something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah. Right.
But no, this might be slightly like a hot take, I guess. But I fuck with um music that's like horror soundtracks. I'll listen
Mm.
to them on the go.
Cool.
Have you heard of of a movie called The Witch?
No.
It's basically just about a witch that torments this family, believe it or not. And yeah, real spooky soundtrack. They had this improv choir on it where they just basically do this real unsettling kind of choir stuff. Anyway, I'll just listen to that soundtrack while I'm driving. It's yeah.
Mean.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah, like the soundtrack, and I think like there's quite a few I think in like the metal genre world alternative, a lot of people do enjoy listening to soundtracks. I do
Yeah.
find that to be quite a common thing. One of my favorite soundtracks, not movie but from a video game, is that Doom. Was it Eternal?
Right.
Was it what was his name who did it? Gosh, Mick. What's his name? The name escapes me, but it's just like a real genty, like heavy,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
heavy soundtrack. It's real cool.
No, I
But
mean,
that's fun. I so a lot of horror influences. Like I listen to like some of the tracks, got Funeral, and like some of the videos like in the forest.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Very doomy, and that's fun.
Mm.
I don't really know anybody else who's really doing that, to be honest.
Yeah, I think
In New
in
Zealand,
New
Auckland.
Zealand, yeah, fair. I think it's a very niche kind of thing. Obviously, my music can have a pretty depressing overtone.
Mm.
And so most people don't just sit down and listen to depressing music all day every day, you know.
Mm.
So it's definitely pretty niche. But a band that does a similar style, Webs. They're
Okay.
also from Auckland. Shout out to Webs. They're real cool. But yeah, there's a term called doom gaze, which I guess is doom metal and shoegaze.
Got you.
Not exactly I wouldn't say what I do is necessarily that, but
Mm.
bands in that kind of doom gaze genre, it's definitely niche, but yeah, very very cool.
What sort of Because I think what was is it? There was another one I listened to. I think it's the number one on your Spotify playlist. Oh, the Spotify on yours. I
Yeah.
forgot the name of it, but it has like a guitar loop that goes for quite a while. In the beginning. Sorry, I've totally forgot the name of it. But when you do your writing and you're writing your guitar or anything like that, do you sort of having like a 1 minute 30 loop of a guitar is it's not something I do, but it's like, okay, cool, interesting. Like, where's this gonna go? Do you enjoy kind of dragging things out to try and evoke other emotions or like other feelings of your music?
I think it's a kind of a balance thing where I don't want to rush through it, you know. I want to really work on these ideas, and I also I'm very aware that if you have all these riffs, for example, and if you just put them together, it kind of turns into riff salad, and they need a way to progress into one another. So it's very this structural whatever. But I also remember years ago when I used to listen to a lot of death metal,
Yeah.
and I was listening to death, and I was focusing on how they wouldn't hang on to their riffs for so long. They'd have two repeats of it, and then they'd have another two where they'd layer a harmony so it doesn't get boring, and then they'd change riff. You know what I mean? And it's very not allowing it so much space that it is kind of boring or feels kind of just empty. So yeah, I think creating an atmosphere, which is obviously easy with repetition, is very cool, and to create this space that you're just sitting in and being mellow in it or whatever.
Yeah.
But then also trying to have layer it up as you go.
Because Because with your music, it's really like you have to sit there or be in, maybe it's like a long car journey, or if it's like gardening, like you're saying before, your brother. You have to have some. I feel like you have to like really sit and like immerse. It's not just like as you on the go. Sort of music, I suppose. So I guess you like that's the. I imagine the people that that sort of gravitate to that are the ones who really, can integrate. Like, oh, I'm gonna sit and I'm gonna listen to Stag's Yarrow and for about a good half an hour. I feel like you can't just listen to one song.
Well, I'm happy long. If that's what the audience thinks.
Like 8 minutes or something like that. Of doing that, it's like to reserve the time to do that. And it's interesting at the moment. I find with like alternative music, because I think there's sort of with Instagram, TikTok time, short attention spans, etc. Doing the doom metal is interesting, but then I think also like you have like a lot of like there's also like kind of like the math rock kind of coming back as well. And that's also like in the jazzy stuff. But then someone also like yourself, you kind of fit in more on the opposite end of that.
It's yes and no. Like a fun fact, I used to be like basically like only a thrash musician years ago, and I remember I released this album as like a kind of thrash solo project, and I went onto this dude's on YouTube, this guy's stream, and like you'd pay him like $5 and he'd basically review your song, and he was like a real like music theory nerd, kind of like me these days. Like he loved like Dream Theater and everything.
Cool.
And he listened to the song that was just thrash, and then he got his guitar first time hearing it and just started playing along, and he was like, bro, your music's predictable. And like predictable music can be cool, like there's nothing wrong with it, but like it kind of made me think like, oh, like maybe I should put more thought into it. Like if it's going to be basic, do that by choice, not because I'm just
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, so I definitely do like spend a lot of time thinking about very like Funeral, for example. Obviously it's like this slow doomy song, but the chorus is like it starts in 4/4, then it goes to 9/8, then it goes to 6/8. That's just the chorus, right? So like
that's exciting.
without being like too like pretentious and like, oh, look at me with my weird time signatures about it. Like it obviously still serving the song, but I really do like making it interesting and kind of having a progressive approach to something which is typically just very repetitive.
Yeah, it's like, does it serve the song with making those changes? And I think within the sort of world that you're in, or even more, like extreme genres, you can kind of go off on these crazy tangents, and you can make it as complex as whatever it is you want. If that's what you want to do, then it's cool. But yeah, does it serve the song? I was having a discussion with that with a big one with Corey Friedlander, and he was big death metal drummer in New Zealand, very accomplished, and he was saying like, like with all these kind of crazy music, even like in like the death metal, deathcore sort of space, it's like, well, does it serve the song with sort of where we're going? Yeah. Which I think can get kind of I think that's actually more challenging in the world that you're in, because it's like you really can do whatever. Like it's even more open, I feel.
Yeah, I mean it's like. Because I'm not, I guess a lot of bands, they're like, oh, I'm going to be a deathcore band. You know what I mean? And so they're like, this is what we're doing.
This is the conventions that we've laid out for ourselves.
Yeah, I'm just kind of like trying to express myself. Obviously, I've got a lot to say, or a lot on my mind that I want to communicate musically. And it often kind of happens to take the route of like, I don't know, like kind of doomy vibes, a little bit of like black metal sprinkled in there, as well as like, I don't know, like synth wave, like kind of like just kind of doing what feels right. And I think it's, instead of it being one genre, it's more like one atmosphere. Like you'd listen to Stag's Yarrow and it's this very like mellow, introspective kind of vibe. So you'd listen to a few different genres within it, but it all like, it doesn't feel like hopefully it doesn't feel like whiplash. So yeah, there's more space because it's like not being confined to one thing. More space to do more.
Yeah. What sort of with the synth influence, what would you say that comes from, like when you say synthwave?
So my favorite song is it's called Sick, and it's by Chelsea Wolfe, which is like, she's a more recent 2000s artist or whatever. But that song has that kind of like 80s synth sound, and it's also quite like, darker kind of like airy vibes, I guess. Such a good song. But anyway, and so I had written, for example, this song a while back called "I Am the Dark," and I had written it on acoustic guitar, and I was so like falling in love with "Sick," that song, and so I was jamming with my mate Owen, who lives in Melbourne now. He used to play in a band called Neon Serpent. He plays in another band now, Death of Art. But anyway, he'd helped me like do synths for Stag's Yarrow. And I was like, hey, so I've got the song, here are the chords, like, but I want to put it all on synth. And I showed him Sick, and I was like, here's the kind of vibe, like, I wasn't very good at doing myself at that point in time, so I definitely did need his help. And he just has the mind for it, like he helped me, for example, layer the orchestra synths on hemispheres, and like I would have these ideas, we're going to do this with the violins or whatever, and he's like, oh, let me just do this, do 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 do, or like on the synth programming it, and he just has this like, but fucking songs like "Sick" by Chelsea Wolfe, that's fucking hell yeah.
For that synth influence for you as well, and like,
yeah.
When did you start playing around with more than just like, I guess, the conventions of doom, like I guess the instrumentation of doom metal or rock? When did you start like, sort of playing around with because you can just, there's quite a few layers in your music, so
yeah. Well, I mean, obviously I've been making music for a long time, even before Stag's Yarrow. But in like 2019 I was writing, as well as like a lot of thrash, I was also starting to write a lot of like black metal. And like black metal thrash, and just like this very like angsty, aggressive, stuff. And I moved to Sweden, and I didn't have my amp. I just had my guitar. And so when I was trying to record songs for my like at the time SoundCloud through like a a gaming microphone or whatever, like a headset mic, I had to basically just play my electric guitar unplugged and like edit the hell out of it, And so I started writing more mellow tunes. And when I came back to New Zealand, like, my dad had a guitar, and I would just like, I'd be stuck down there in COVID times, and so I couldn't be playing metal all day with my parents, like being like, oh, shut up, So I started like, and I'd started learning to sing when I was in Sweden, because I didn't have an amp. I couldn't just scream over this no sound kind of. And so I started learning to sing, and like I started writing more like acoustic songs. And what was the question again?
No, it's just sort of like you've opened yourself up to more like with the layers of your music.
I guess what I'm saying is like that kind of thing taught me that experimenting with different genres, even if like, let's say I go write some like elevator music tomorrow, I might not do anything with that song. I might not like it. I might not ever play it again. But I would probably have learned some things from trying to do that, and the different like techniques, different things. I'm like, oh, this is cool. And from experimenting and kind of like dipping my feet in a few different pools or whatever, it kind of like all comes back, the best bits from each of those. So, I think that the doomy side is even probably more recent for me than, some of the like the black metal elements, for example, at the end of Funeral, where it goes like blast beaty and stuff like that feels more like traditional for me.
Yeah, you're familiar with that territory.
Yeah. But there are bands like Darker and like Funerals and stuff like that.
I know Darker. Yeah.
Yeah, that kind of like vibe is. I've found ever since hearing bands like that in the last few years, I'm like, oh my god, like this music understands me. So I'm kind of now creating the music that I want to like listen to, I guess. And just the influence of just having experimented with other stuff, like writing folk music, writing jazzy kind of stuff, being a music theory nerd, like that just kind of seeps its way in there where it does.
A lot to play with. Yeah, it's quite interesting now that I think about it more, with like you saying about the black metal, a very like full on audio experience. It's just very chaotic, heaps happening, to doom, which is just space. Music from no space to all the space.
It is like that, but it's also like, if you think about, obviously like black metal is like pretty varied. Like you'll have, like Emperor, and then you'll have like Marduk, which are like two completely different vibes, right? Like you listen to like, Emperor's anthems, and like in the Night Side and stuff like that, and it's obviously heavy or whatever, but it's mostly just very atmospheric and like creates this kind of dark overtone kind of vibe. And then with Marduk, then you've got this like, okay, this is a fucking aggressive. You listen to like like Fist Fucking God's Planet and songs like that, and you're like, whoa, but I think like the thing that I like most about black metal is the atmosphere it creates and like the feeling. I guess that's the thing. It's like it's less about the genre. I love cool riffs, but it's less about the cool riffs and it's more so the feeling that it evokes, you know? And so doom metal and black metal, as well as other genres, both share that where they can create this very like impending doom kind of feel, you know? And I think that's what I want to achieve in some way or another.
Yeah, less about the riffs, more about creating a feeling with it. Yeah, yeah, getting stuck on the riff. Yeah, been there.
Yeah.
What how did you kind of get started with getting into music? Like, what was your entry?
Yeah, well, obviously, like, as a kid, I was, like, learning guitar and stuff, and I was, like, into, like, post-hardcore and metalcore, like, as a, like, you know, when I was, like, 13, 14 and stuff. And I was showing my guitar teacher this one song. I was like, can you, like, teach me how to play this? And we got to it, and it was, like, 0 0 0 0 0 0. You know what I mean? Just,
Yeah.
just metalcore stuff. And I was so bored, but I didn't want to tell him that I was bored learning it because I was like, I asked him to teach me this. But
What song was it?
It was called Bones Exposed by Of Mice and Men.
Oh, I know. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Of Mice and Men. Yeah, I
Yeah.
know them.
Anyway, and then he kind of just picked up on like neither of us are enjoying this, so he was like, I want to show you a song, and so he showed 14-year-old me for the first time in my life Metallica, and it was Enter Sandman, you know, and every teenage boy, like when they see fucking old school James Hetfield, they're just like ooh you know. So that really made me take music as a passion way more seriously, where I was like, I really want to write songs that I can like play and sing and like connect with. And so it was very like cheesy thrash, but like that was me at the time, right? And so one Christmas, my mum got me this voucher, which was like 1 hour in a studio. Do you know who Jesse Wilde is?
I've heard that name from around.
He's a producer, and a like kind of Americana folk musician as well. He's real good guy. But his whole like I guess dream or goal or whatever is to basically help other people creatively live their dreams and to give other people those opportunities, which is sick. And so that voucher was just an hour in the studio. I went in there, recorded this thrash song that I had, and I could scream at the time, but my mom was there and I was scared to scream in front of her, so I like half sang it out of key, and it's so bad listening to it. This is 2016 when I was like 17, but anyway, I kept in contact with him, and so for a few years later, I'd written more songs. I was like, hey, like, you know, I have a full-time job now. I'm out of school. Like, I want to record some music. So that would be like where it kind of started, I guess.
Yeah, right.
You know, and since then, like, I think having that opportunity, partially like my mum giving me that opportunity and like Jesse and stuff, but like that allowed me to like, you know, go out to like, I don't know, Ding Dong Lounge or, you know, some place like that and like talk to other musicians and have an idea what I'm actually talking about and feel kind of like a part of something in a way. Yeah, I'd say that was kind of like what got me into it, and obviously it's just a progression over time.
Yeah. Oh, cool. Yeah. So starting post-hardcore, metalcore was sort of your first beginnings of getting into the rock genre. Then Metallica.
Well, I mean, as far as rock genre goes, my dad always listened to like Nirvana and stuff like that. So like as a kid, I'd listen to like Green Day and you know, I listened to like Paramore and stuff when like Brand New Eyes came out and whatnot. But like getting into like the kind of like heavier side, I say in air quotes like Pestival's that heavy, but you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, it's a jump. Jump.
Definitely. I was like, wow, fucking screams. This is so cool. Like, he sounds like a girl. This is so cool. You know what I mean? Like, but yeah, I think it was, music usually feels for me like, and this is probably for most people as well, kind of like a representation of where I am in my life, you know? Like, so when I was listening to Metallica, when I was like, oh, hell yeah, ooh, yeah, you know, like, I was that, like, angsty kind of testosteronal teenage boy, you know? And then so, like, 80s Hetfield really, like, appealed to me in that sense, you know? This very, like, macho energy, you know? And I think these days, like, I'm probably much more of, like, an introspective person now, I guess, you know, that kind of the vibe of my music. So yeah, I just kind of like you gravitate towards what you kind of like see yourself in.
Yeah. Definitely, yeah. Because everyone's like, I think entry, especially games like heavier music, you know,
Mm-hmm.
you have like your gateway bands and there's kind
Yeah.
of like levels you go through to kind of end up, especially like for yourself, you know, going to like Doom, sort of Doom ambient music, you know, it's quite, you know, you have to kind of go through a few other bands before you sort of end up at like,
Yeah, you have your
yeah,
phases.
you have the phases of it, eh?
Mm.
Have you got like what would you say is a great Doom band for anyone's interested? What's a good band to start with?
If somebody was getting into like just Doom, I'd say a great band to start with if you're not already listening to like incredibly heavy music, so you're kind of coming in from the softer side, would be Candlemass.
Yeah.
I fucking love Candlemass. They're great.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like all cleans. It's very like you know, that kind of like Iron Maiden kind of like belty, kind of very like epic kind of. It's almost like they feel to me like doom power metal, you know, but very cool, very like Halloweeny sounding riffs. Otherwise, for the heavier side of doom, like I feel like I lean more so to the very atmospheric kind of doom gazy stuff that I listen to anyway. I don't spend a lot of time listening to like very like visceral kind of doom metal, you know. I think the kind of like darker, like heavy stuff I listen to is more like, you know, Behemoth.
Behemoth.
Yeah, yeah. But for just like the kind of doom stuff that I listen to mostly, yeah, Funerals, darker. If you can call Feytooth kind of like doom gazy, like Feytooth is another good one. Actually, not doom at all, but with some doom vibes on particular songs. A fucking great example, and I just love them, is Opeth.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah.
Opeth. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, like, such a. I guess you could say almost like a band that just is quite. You know, like a very divided fan base, you know, because of just like that metal stuff they've done, and then a lot of it's real clean and like almost classical.
Yeah, yeah,
You know,
yeah.
that they've done. Where do you sort of more sit
I
with them?
so when I first wanted to get into them, I'd heard like one or two songs. Like I heard like Ghost of Perdition and stuff. And I went onto this like Facebook forum or whatever, and I was like, "Hey guys, what's a good album to start with?" And they recommended me Pale Communion, which is very like that kind of modern jazzy proggy, not that heavy. Very, very interesting music. And I was like, okay, this is what Opeth is. And it wasn't until a while later that I really like properly delved into some of their other. I think I'd started on their softer side pretty much, and I've gotten heavier with them. Like, you know, I've really loved Damnation, that album. But these days, you know, like Blackwater Park, like my favorite Opeth song is The Drapery Falls, you know. Oh man. Blackwater Park is one of those albums that it's like perfect the whole way through. You know, it doesn't have a skippable song, I think.
Have to send it to me.
Yes.
I need some new tunes. I need some new tunes. So cool. Okay. So you're back to talking about your journey. So guitar was the first instrument that you picked up. Is that the first one?
Yeah. And you know, even when I wasn't incredibly good at guitar, like I'd play the basic chords or whatever, I was still like writing lyrics anyway. Like I've always been a pretty poetic person, I guess. So like I'd write.
So like the poetry come before.
Back in the day, yeah, I would write lyrics and I'd hear the melodies in my head, and then this is when I was like particularly young, and then I would write guitar around it because I wasn't, you know, I didn't really know how to write like a compelling piece of music on guitar and then write lyrics or vocals or whatever to that. But these days, you know, it's obviously lyrics are important, and like obviously the tone of like my voice and, you know, using my voice as an instrument is important. But I think first and foremost, like the background, like you kind of have to build a house on foundations. You know what I mean? Like you have to start with something. And so I try to like, I overthink every note in my songs. Like I'm like, do I want this to be like a, you know, a power chord? Do I want it to be like a flat 9 power chord? Like, you know what I mean? Like every note has to serve a very particular purpose. So yeah, I spend a long time creating like the feeling in that space and that atmosphere, and I'm like, cool, like this is like the perfect amount of beautiful and like hurt or whatever it is, you know.
Okay.
And
cool,
then
that's
I'm
cool.
like, cool, like now let me start singing over this or screaming or, you know.
That's a cool way to think about it. The difference between beautiful and hurt. Yeah. True. Yeah, I guess you can really do that with. I never thought of it like that. Like with a lot of heavy music, you know, you can really divide that, especially like dynamically. You know, you can really. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I guess with a lot of heavy music, like metal, right? Like you get a lot of stuff that'll be like in minor or like, some of the diminished scales and stuff, like that kind of thing. But like you technically could make any key metal. You just have to make it metal, right? And so like I really fuck with like those very like kind of beautiful like Lydian. I don't know how much
Yeah.
music, yeah, I really like Lydian. And I write a lot in Lydian. I also love harmonic minor, right?
Yeah, that's a good one.
So it's like these very like kind of I can't think of really the word I'm looking for, but these very just like kind of those sorts of feelings. But then just make it metal,
Have to make it metal.
yeah.
When did you bring when was the first time, because Stag's Yarrow is very much you. You make everything. You have your own band as well. When did you first take it to the stage?
So I had been recording music and like playing it at home, just building the Instagram following for a few months. In last year, almost 2 years ago. Crazy, it's December 1st. But anyway, and then it was end of September anyway. It was like a week after I'm the Dark came out or something like that, which was September 2023. I just had a few months of like grinding. Kind of, I'd released Airways and Fair, which were both like folk songs pretty much. And then Ginge from Swamp Cult Records, he organized this thing called like Mean As Thursdays at Ding Dong Lounge.
Oh, yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah, and it was pretty much just like this like unpaid thing but it was, I guess I didn't really fit into the demographic, but it was supposed to be giving people of like some kind of minority, be that like a female fronted band or be that like, like a trans musician or something like that, right?
Okay.
Opportunities to play music. And then the bro was just like, "Hey, do you want to play on this?" I was like, "Well, okay." I'm a bearded musician. That's my minority. But yeah, it was real cool. I had driven down to Wellington. I had been on a radio interview there on Wellington Access Radio, and then the next day driven back up to Auckland. Then that next day I'd gone to work, finished at 10 p.m. and played that show, and I was so fucking sick from that whole thing. Like my throat was like, at work I had like my like Yeti mug and I had like green tea and I was just like inhaling it. Yeah, fuck. It was a good time. But I guess the audience liked it enough, and like, maybe I didn't sound as good as I was used to sounding, because you have very like high standards for yourself, but I guess I got through it, and like people were still like, okay, well, cool songs and stuff. So
That was just acoustic? Or was that with,
that was yeah,
just
because
full-on
at the
acoustic?
time
Yeah.
I was also, I think I had less of a drive to make as much metal with Stag Zero as well.
Because you'd done it for quite a while beforehand.
Oh yeah, I had done metal for a bit.
Yeah.
I also was kind of having a phase where I wasn't listening to much metal anyway. I was going through a phase of like grieving, and so like metal just was like, oh, I just want to listen to like sad shit, like sad acoustic, like immerse Rundle and stuff. But
Okay.
but also like I had around that same time joined a metalcore band, which I'm no longer a part of. Good guys, but just left the band. And so I kind of had that metal, urge, whatever was kind of being like, satisfied anyway. So yeah, like, Airways, Fair were folk, like I'm the Dark was like synthwave, then Hemispheres and Avoidance are like kind of folk, more or less, and now finally we've got like Funeral, which is, probably more representative of what my set list live is like now, right? Like I've got one or two kind of folky songs on the set. Most of it's pretty like, some form of doomy metal stuff.
Do you have any ideas for like more have you done many music videos, so to speak?
So yeah, fun question. Obviously, like, I don't know, you may have seen that I've had those like short form like portrait, like real like
Yeah.
10-second music videos.
Yeah, I've seen those. Yeah.
Yeah,
The little ones.
which are just good ways to like promote music when it's about to come out or whatever. But I am in the process of like kind of organizing with people a music video for basically my next single. It's very early stages, so I mean I also can't even say much about it because I don't really know exactly what's happening yet. But yeah, that's pretty much the next goal to release a single with a music video.
No, cool. Yeah, music videos are in like I've had a conversation with a few people about it on the podcast. It's in like a funny place at the moment with like having like a full production music video. It's like, is it worth doing it in the current times in some ways? Because it's like, yes, it is if you want to do it for yourself and have something. But then I think on like talking before about the promotion side, it's like maybe was like, is everybody gonna watch the whole video? I think people still do.
To be honest, I like, okay, now this might not be like the greatest way to look at it, but I think it's less so about how many people watch the whole video. It's more, it's the psychological side of like how you market yourself, right?
Yeah.
So, I notice, because I've started doing this thing for the past like 2 months where each time I post to Instagram, I've planned that out for like a month in advance what I'm going to post.
Nice.
And then
Good stuff.
toward the end of that month, and there'll be a certain reason, it'll be like a month of post, they'll be like trying to achieve this goal. Then the next month will be like, okay, it's like throughout October, I was trying to get as many new people to like see my account, get more followers and stuff. And then I did a month of promoting funeral. So it's like, I've got these new followers, now let's get them looking at funeral, right? And so toward the end of the first month, I reflected, I looked through all of them, and I was like, what kind of content has been like falling flat, kind of what's rowing my boat, what's going for the ride, and what's drilling holes in the boat, right?
Nice.
And so I guess it's like I already knew this, but like in theory, but it was a good kind of like, it really showed it that if you don't look the part, people won't think you are, even if you are, and vice versa. If you're just some dude but it looks real good, so if I just upload a video of me playing acoustic guitar in front of a white wall just in my house, or like on the couch, like people aren't really going to interact with it. It's just like some dude, but when it was like those kind of short form music videos and stuff, people were like, oh, like this is legit, and then they want to like see what I'm up to, right? That's kind of separate from music, but it's the same idea at the end of the day. And it's at my day job, I work in like retail.
Yeah.
There was this one brand I sell like hiking products at Macpac. Anyway, there was this one brand of like freeze dried food which wasn't selling very well, and I was like, I want it to sell more. So I started like just putting it like on the walls, like just displaying it around the store.
Yeah.
So when they got to the wall, it was like subconscious. So
that's subconscious. It's all about that subconscious, isn't it?
Yeah. And so I guess what I'm saying is it's like all about the impression you leave and what you show people. Like it sits in people's, like so much of how people consume and like the opinions they come to and like the decisions they make or whatever. It's not like something they consciously realize they're doing. So if you look the part, if you have a music video and people can see that, they're like, oh, cool. So this is a legitimate band. This isn't just some dude, you know? So I think that the only people who would watch like a 7-minute music video or something like that, right? They're going to be people who are like Stag's Yarrow fans.
Yeah, they're already engaged with you and have been there maybe for a little while.
Yeah, the people who aren't like the casual listeners, but the people who are like, oh, I fucking loved it, you know? But but for everyone else, like it's just a tool to make it look legitimate. So then people are like, okay, sick. Like
it's a real band. It's a real artist. It's not some like fake thing or something.
There's so much so much of like marketing or promotion or whatever. It's just psychology kind of stuff.
Really is. No, it's so funny though, because with music videos initially, like way back when 80s MTV and stuff, that was the marketing.
Yeah,
it's like that. So what you're saying to like grab followers or fans to begin with, it was actually the music video. It's like quite funny how now it's like kind of like you've got to have the entry, like the little reels or like the little clips, and have a different way. I love the idea that you do the planning though. That's great. I think you're actually quite ahead of a lot of people, bro, with that sort of thing. Or maybe I don't know. There's just you kind of have to do that with music now if you're an artist, I suppose. But it's a really good way to think about it. You're really treating it like a brand sort of thing, which you sort of need to, because you want people to check it out, you want people to stream it, people come to shows. It's like you got to give it the legitimate treatment that you want. But I like that.
Yeah, because I guess at the end of the day, like I make the music first and foremost because like I don't know, I've got a fucking bunch of deep shit, whatever, and I need to like get it out of my system. But I want to be able to do that every day for the rest of my life, and I don't want to have to worry about going to a job that I will get burnt out by or whatever, So if you want your creative passion to also be your job, you kind of also have to treat it as such. You know what I mean? So you kind of, not that I'm like sacrificing my integrity or anything, but you have to brand it.
You have
I
to
guess.
invest. You got to invest in
Yeah.
like, well, what would Stag's Yarrow look like if it was legitimate? Like, what what does it look? How is it perceived online? My branding. You have to do it. So, but I
Yeah.
guess the beautiful thing with a lot of this stuff, so cliche, everyone says this, but you can do all that shit now, right?
Yeah.
Different problems, I think, with the music industry now, because there is so much out there. And everyone, I can't remember the amount of songs on Spotify that get released every day, but
it'll be so many.
It's something insane.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, what?
There might be like, it's easier to release stuff, but because of that, more people doing it, there's more competition kind of. I mean, I don't like to think of it as competition. Like, I like, we're all fucking on the same boat, bro. Like, like if X band from the scene, like if Exit Sign, like they release something, I'm not just like, oh, competition, they're gonna cannibalize my listeners. No, hell yeah, Exit Sign. Like,
well, that's the thing I'm seeing more of now is like, in the music scene, I think it's like people realize we really need to have each other. And like, if everyone puts each other up, then everybody wins. Like, there's enough to go around. There really is enough to go around, and I think that idea of scarcity, or like trying to treat it too much like a business, I think, where it's like, oh, nah, we've got competition, and I need to squash the competition.
The best businesses will always know how to work with one another rather than against one another, for sure.
Yeah, because it's like at the end of the day, like especially within the music world, like you do really need each other, because it's like also within like yours, like Exit Sign example, like you guys would need each other, right? Because we need bands to play with who are in. Obviously, you could play with whoever you want, do whatever you like, but maybe you want to have a gig that's more,
has a flow to it, kind of.
Some similarities, maybe some cohesiveness. Not saying it has to.
Exit Sign definitely. I mean, like, I've done, to be honest, even when I was doing like folk sets, I did a few gigs with Exit. The first time I played like my metal songs live was with Exit Sign at Navara Lounge in Hamilton, actually, in March. That was a real cool gig. The owner of Navara Lounge, actually, as a side note, is so cool, such a cool dude. But anyway, you're right. You're right. You could play with whoever, but if you don't want it to be like too whiplashy, and you want to kind of create a feeling for the night, like a certain like this is the theme. Yeah, like you need each other, and it's the same for like, if you see somebody's good at photography, well, they need somebody to photograph, So by them photographing your gig or at a photo shoot, whatever, you're helping them, they're getting their name out there, they're building their portfolio. And also by doing that, they're helping you build your brand's image and stuff, So it's, everyone kind of, it's like this like village, you're this like community. It's this guy's the baker, this guy like fucking farms the wheat, this guy, you know what I mean? Like it's,
you all need each other, otherwise the scene or what you're trying to do can't thrive. And I feel like now, I've said this before on the podcast, but I feel like now there's more, because of, I guess, socials and with a lot of projects, I think it's people are more together now, I feel like, than before. I don't feel like Auckland scene's quite as split as it once was.
Right.
It used to be a bit more split.
I have very interesting thoughts about Auckland, because obviously it's the largest city in the country, but we're also not a massive country. And so when I first was kind of getting into the scene, this is when I had like a solo project, but not like a band or anything. This is years ago. I'd go to Ding Dong Lounge and I would get the Jenga set from behind the bar, and I'd go up to strangers and I'd be like, want to play Jenga? And like drunk people are always going to be like, hell yeah. And then I just asked like, oh, what music do you like? You know what I mean? And so at the time when I was like learning about new bands, it seemed like this big, like unexplored, new frontier. And now I realize it's like the drummer from this band is the bassist in this band, and everyone's like, like cross-pollinating, and it's actually quite small.
It is quite small. We are, at the end of the day, a country. Well, the city's, is it 2 million now? I think. Well, we must. We're
probably
Auckland region, right? Must be. So yeah, it is very small, and obviously alternative music is even like smaller. So whoever you can get. So yeah, because it would kind of split. I think if I had to put it by genre, I'd be like, you kind of go like the punk rock scene. I've sort of seen in Auckland with like, and then there's like kind of like some coinciding rock bands. Then you kind of go like sort of the hardcore that's still there, the metalcore. And then there's kind of like, the alternative, I guess. I feel like your scene is like, not your scene, because it can cross-pollinate into that metal, but it's more like the death metal.
Yeah.
Because I say there's no doom scene, right? I mean, maybe
Yeah.
there is that I don't know about.
There-
But I feel
there-
like if you were to play with other bands, it's probably going to be like the more. Am I wrong? Tell me if I'm wrong. It's like the death metal or
Yeah,
within
I
that
can think
space?
of two bands which are like, and I say this with an element of like take it with a grain of salt, but quite like Stag's Yarrow. One of them is, I mentioned before, Webbs. In fact, fun fact, the verse riff for Funeral, the boom, 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 that was inspired by a Webb song. The rest was just kind of my own journey writing it, but anyway. And another one's called Schistosite. Also kind of doomy vibes, but yeah, I mean, like usually when I'm trying to like think about creating doing a gig, I'm thinking like who does heavy music with some kind of either atmosphere or like kind of minor overtone. You know what I mean?
Got you.
So it's pretty I guess it's very ethereal music, but it's also like heavy or whatever. So it's kind of hard because I feel like with certain artists that I would play with, I'm either too heavy or I'm too soft.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah, you would be within that. I had when I was in a band a long time ago, like a metal band, we had a similar issue, but different sort of genre. We were more like I guess melodic hardcore, whatever the fuck you want to call that.
Yeah.
But it was like there's singing, but then there's screaming and breakdowns and all that. Kind of like the metalcore, but then not the 5-7-8 kind of stuff. It was hard to I guess, but explain. But then it'd be like you play like the death metal gigs, and then it sort of like felt like a pop band. Then you play the rock gigs, and you're like, okay, this is the heavy band.
Yeah.
And you're sort of like, ooh, like where do we kind of fit in with this? So that'd be kind of funny.
Yeah, I hear
but
that.
I kind of enjoy that. I kind of enjoyed it. You get an interesting reaction from different people, and you can kind of. I think that's the other thing. If you can get a headliner who's willing to be like, well, I like their music, and let's see what happens, right? Like, what happens if we get something outside of our genre or outside of our space?
An observation I've made, and this may be, like I think about like seeing documentaries of like the thrash metal scene from like the 80s or whatever. And they'd be talking about like Exodus being on stage, and they're like, beat up all the posers or whatever, and I don't know if our scene is less like that because
Too small, bro. Everyone knows each other.
well, I mean that kind of mentality around music. I don't know if it's because we aren't teenagers, all of us, and maybe that's more of like a young angsty thing. Because I was like a thrash metal elitist, not like violently, but you know what I mean. As a teenager, I was like, oh fuck,
If you don't listen to this type of thrash,
yeah,
who
right.
fucking are you?
But then it could also be like now that we have like the access to so much more music than like in the 80s, right? Like it's like on Spotify you listen to this, oh, you might like this artist, and I think more people, what I've noticed, are very open to different kinds of music. Like when I released Fear, my second single, which was like folk, right? That's probably my folkiest song I've done.
Oh, I have listened to that one. It's much more, the acoustic one.
And
I liked it. I think, honestly, for me, I like the folk stuff that you do, and I'm not really a folk guy.
I'm not gonna stop doing folk things as well. It's just
cool.
gonna be sprinkled, I suppose. Creating what I want to create. But
Yeah.
I remember at the time one of the members from The First Child, which is like a hardcore band, shared it on their story, being like, "Oh, beautiful song," and I was like, "That's so cool." This guy that I would like associate with heavier music is like just vibing this like real like melodic like airy folk song, And so I guess. I've been fortunate. I've been fortunate to mingle with people who have a variety of different tastes. Like Jay from Exit Sign, for example. He did this thing where he listened to an album a week or a day or some shit like that for an entire year. Which may not be that sustainable, but like a new album, I mean. But like he learned so much music, and he's got such this like broad taste, and because of that, I think that helps him connect with more people musically as well, and he makes so many friends. And so I've met other musicians through him, like Max from Slow Rage, which I have like a fake beef with. I mean, edit out the part where I said fake. No. But anyway, and so like meeting all these musicians of slightly different genres, but like when Slow Rage released In Between recently, I was like, damn son, where'd you find it? Like, it's so cool that there are so many like different people who aren't really in the same genre or vibe or whatever, but
There's like respect there.
yeah, we all can like see the value in each other's work and each other's music, and I think having the open mind like that as well means that it's not as hard to create that vibe live. You know, I can be like, okay, I can see this person's vibe similar enough to my own artwork, you know?
Yeah. I think that's that just reminded me of something else I want to ask you as well. Was like, because having like talking about before about needing each other in the scene, and then you have people that you've met, and then different types of music and relating to people from different musical genres and things like that. And then kind of realizing, you know, like the passion to pursuing music, especially, you know, within the genre that you're doing, and you know you're doing this kind of artistic expression and wanting to take it professionally is, you know, it's hard. You know, like it's like something that I feel like people may not really understand all the time unless you're in it, like the work that goes into
So fucking much, my dude.
not because it's like we just explained before for probably a good while about just how you look on the social platforms and release music. That's like just a part of it, you know, and it all comes back to the music, obviously, and at the end of the day. But it's it's like to pursue something like this, which I was kind of I've kind of turned this podcast to more focus on, is more like people's passions and drives to go after these things, because they are difficult.
Yeah,
you have to be disciplined and consistent, and you can't just be like, oh, maybe not today, and it's like you can't do that.
Yeah, no, and like I do learn that the hard way, like not often. I think I'm pretty like I guess disciplined with like my I stick to my schedules pretty well, right? But
sounds like it, yeah.
But you know, sometimes like recently I genuinely just forgot to post the thing I was supposed to post for that day. And you know, the algorithm on Instagram will so quickly be like, oh, never mind, nobody wants to see them, they didn't post one day, you know what I mean? Yeah. And it's like you realize that, okay, you have a day job, right? You have your weekend, you're still getting paid, the business is still functioning, they've got other people working on it on your days off, right? Business is thriving, they're capitalizing like fuck on you, you know what I mean? With no disrespect to, you know, whatever your day job is, unless you hate it, then fuck it. But like so in my case with Stag's Yarrow and whatever your personal creative, you know, if you're an independent business person, I guess, like if you aren't working, then no work's being done. Like if you're on a holiday, no like money is being made, or, you know, so it's, what I found is that it's, very important to find the most efficient ways to constantly be putting stuff out, but while also trying to minimize the amount of work it feels like you're doing, because otherwise you'll burn out, right? Yeah. And I've done that before, where I was like getting a decent following on Stag's Yarrow, and then I kind of didn't post for 2 weeks. So this was like last year or something. I was just like, no, fuck this. And I don't want that to happen. So now, like how I say, I plan out all those reels or whatever. I'll like record 3 or 4 of them on the weekend, and then when it comes to the day, like, okay, today I'm posting this one.
Yeah. I do the same thing.
Yeah. Then all you have to do is post. You know. This month's actually a little fucked because I missed a few opportunities. Things didn't. Anyway, so now I have to replan my schedules. But you know, that kind of thing. It's. Fun fact, I used to do powerlifting before I broke my ankle.
Oh, shit.
And
that's cool.
I love taking a lesson from like one thing which applies to that, but kind of thinking about it in a broader context. And so, you know, with like powerlifting, it's like, okay, I lift like 2 reps of this weight and then I sit for 6 minutes, you know, and it's like between sets, I'm not standing up, I'm sitting down, I'm conserving as much energy as I can. You know what I mean? And it's like, and like making sure you have like adequate rest days and stuff like that. And like I'm very conscious of conserving energy and like
and sustainability of what you're trying to do. I totally agree. I was saying to you before we started, my experience of that with this is I was doing a podcast every week. I was releasing just stupid amounts of content. Some of it not great, but a lot of it me was trying to find my footing. And also understanding, you know, how do I edit shit that doesn't look like shit.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I can't do this because, you know, balancing life, work, all the stuff I'm talking about. I'm like, this is going to be impossible, and it's going to suffer. The quality's going to suffer. You know, like that's kind of probably what you've learned as well. It's like the powerlifting thing. Like if you keep lifting, it's like, well, now
you're not actually going to start lifting them. You're going to start like lowering your muscle mass or whatever. Because you're like,
so it's like, how do you make this
called?
sustainable? And I kind of applied that same thing. Like, okay, I'll do my editing on this day. Like, ideally, try and get out a couple of vids or a couple of things. Like, sweet, that's done. Go on about it. When it comes to the day or the time when you post, it's like, sweet, I've got.
And then
the
you're
thing.
more productive as well by like taking breaks, right? Like,
But that takes a lot of discipline. Interesting that you mentioned the powerlifting, and like, I feel like people have like a lot of experience with physical outlets when they kind of go into business or creative spaces, and that I find that the discipline can come easier, because if you're like training for powerlifting as an example, and for me, I've done a bit of sport as well, it's like you have to like, if you don't train, like you're physically not going to be able to actually accomplish what you're doing.
Yeah, literally.
And so you have to put in that time, the hours, the, you know, all the things you say. Whereas with music, like, it can be a bit airy-fairy, if you know what I mean. Like,
I think you can fuck around a little bit more. Like, I do notice, like, sometimes like I'll get very I don't know, distracted by my day job, and then so I'll come home and I'll just fucking like cook dinner and go to bed pretty much. Well, not literally just that, but like chill, and I don't play guitar. And then I find like, okay, well, I, other than band practices, like I literally have not sung in like 3 weeks or something like that, you know. And then I notice, oh, well, that's why I feel like I'm having a hard time being in key on this difficult song or something, you know. So like, yeah, I mean,
not training the vocal muscles.
Yeah, it's
which is like the
still a
same as going to the
physical
gym.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's like the same sort of mentality, I think.
Yeah.
Especially with vocals, like it's a muscle. It's got to be trained. It's like training your biceps or training your body. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
You know, I know some guys. Mike from Outside, you know the band Outside In? Heard of them?
Maybe.
They're kind of like a progressive rock. But a guy
cool.
that Mike Brown. He's pretty awesome. He his vocal exercises for a while were crazy, and I was trying to do what he was doing. So it was like 40 minutes almost every day, but just warm-ups, like warm-ups and like scales and all that. And it's just like that. Your muscles are just getting so strong, you know. Like
I don't have that amount of discipline for that. Fuck.
Yeah, but so his voice is amazing as well, really good singing. And I'm like, man, like if I haven't done music in a little bit, but if I go back to it and do recordings, I'm like, okay, well, even before I do that, I need to like get back in the gym, so to speak, back to the gym, you know?
Train yourself up again. Yeah, I noticed that where, like, I had a long time where I was just, you know, playing folk music on guitar and stuff, like, whatever. And then at one point, I forgot why. I think in like a band I was... this old like kind of proggy thrash black metal band, which never ended up happening. We couldn't like organize times to meet up and rehearse or whatever. But we were gonna do a cover of Flag of Hate by Creator, which is pretty, you know, very quick. Okay. Yep. You know, 6 songs, just like old school thrash. But yeah, fucking, I remember all of a sudden being like, wow, I cannot pick that fast anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but you haven't been using those muscles in a bit. Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, I had that as well when I was I played in a cover band for a bit, and that got my guitar muscles, and I did some bit of singing, and that got a lot better. But then I sort of noticed, because the music within that, the hardest song I played in the cover band was probably Sweet Child of Mine, I think. Because it's like the whole thing, right? The whole solo and everything.
Yeah,
and it's
right.
like, I don't care who you are, that song's not that easy, I don't think. But like, I like flexing those muscles, even like on the solos and the licks, and then, you know, playing for like 3-4 hours, and I was like, oh yeah. But now I'll be like, whoa, don't know about that. I think my muscles have worn off, you know?
Yeah.
Especially with if you're playing, like, I mean, the black metal or like heavy music, like, especially like if you, the tremolo picking and stuff, or double kicks and stuff, and blast beats, it's like cardio, man.
The stuff that I guess is more like a mental thing, I think, is like you don't lose it very quickly. Like, you know, if you're used to playing in like a weird time signature and you know how to just count fucking like, I don't know, 3-3, 4-3, 3-3, 4-3, or whatever, you know what I mean? Then cool, you're playing in 13/8. You know what I mean? But like, to have techniques to like play at a certain speed, for example, right? Or to hit a certain note, or to, I don't know, double kick so well, or like, okay. Yeah.
Do you with your songwriting, see a bit of music theory nerd, with time signatures, are those planned or they just happen?
Both, I guess. What I had noticed was around the time that I started to care about it more, I did kind of, you know, intentionally try to get like real like into it with like weird time signatures. I was really dream theater-y kind of, you know. and I was trying to like basically like fuck my brain out of 4/4 by just playing. I'd pick a few different numbers.
Out of it.
Yeah,
That's a
and
buzzy exercise to try.
to like destroy yourself so much that like you just get that independence. And so I remember I picked some numbers. I went 5 7 5 7 3 3 4 3, and this is when I was living in Sweden for a bit. And I used to just go like, right, you know, like that kind of stuff, and just like at first it was so hard that eventually ended up becoming like a riff on one of my old projects, you know. But by learning about those things, it also made me realize I had unintentionally written some songs in weird times, as well. But yeah, these days I think I'm less of a like, look at me, I'm playing in weird times that I used to be. I just like realized that having that in my arsenal, there are so many times where I'm like, oh, this riff would be so much cooler in 9/4. You know, there's this
Having more tools in the tool belt.
yeah, like
Gotcha.
I you know, I've heard that kind of like, oh, music theory is killing my creativity, bro. When has like adding ammunition to the things that like, you know, your arsenal, like how can having more options ruin your creativity, you know?
I totally agree with that.
So yeah, I like to play in odd times for sure, not like exclusively, but a lot, but not to the point that it doesn't like help the song or benefit the song. Like I still want people to listen to it and not just be like, what am I listening to? You know, what is this dance of eternity? You know, but you know, I want people to be able to be like, oh yeah, fucking, you know, they may even not even realize it's out of 4/4. You know, there's this one.
That's the best. I think that's when you know
Yes.
you've done it right. When
Yeah.
people don't understand it's out of the normal time signature, like for
Yeah.
4/4 or something.
Some of my best ones, honestly, are where I'm like trying to count it because I'm like trying to think of like what would go well with it, and then I'm playing my riff and I'm like, wait a second, like that is a measure of 11 or something, you know, like that. There was this. I was listening to Ghost of Perdition by Opeth recently-ish. I say that with like, you know, not that recently, but sort of. And there's this one riff I was like, so cool, kind of has that like double harmonic major, like Persian kind of vibe. I was like, I'm gonna write something similar enough to that, so it's not like a direct rip off, but like, cause I fuck with that kind of spicy, like kind of like Middle Eastern, you know, kind of sound, right? And so I just sat there with my guitar, and I often start on acoustic as well. Because if I think it sounds pretty and beautiful on acoustic, when that translates to metal, it's going to be great. So I just started like fucking riffing around, and I was like, and then afterwards, like a few weeks later, I counted that, and I was like, fuck, that's 9/4, you know? So yeah, it's nice when it just kind of, you know, you use all these.
Out.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I know what you mean because I like the happy accidents I call them. And I remember
Like Bob Ross.
Yeah, I think one of I had someone, I can't remember who I was listening to break down like there's a real random one just came to my head was Joan Jett's their song I Love Rock and Roll, and how the chorus jumps between I think 3/4 and 4/4 and maybe something else, but I was like whatever, and then I listened to it, I'm like, oh, it does. But apparently at the time to get it, and it's obviously pop rock song of back in the day, but to get the song onto radio, they had to be really the way they wrote the song because they really liked the part, but they actually had to like be very calculative with how they made it feel seamless, like it wasn't changing time signatures. But you listen back to it, and because I never thought about the song that hard. I was like, no shit, that's oh shit, and I always wonder that now with a lot of even like different kinds of pop music, maybe not in the last 10 years, but you know, even like, you know, going back 2000s, 90s, 80s, 70s, like how much music was, you know, like big choruses or quite big pop songs would have like these weird time signatures or strange changes, but I just didn't pick up on it because it was done so intelligently.
Yeah,
It's
like
pretty cool.
Not to compare my work to done so intelligently, but like something that I was proud of in terms of like music that I think was seamless. Now, maybe not everyone, maybe some people picked up on it straight away, I don't know. But you know, Fair, how it has that like, that's technically a half bar of 4/4, because like 1 and a 2 and then it just goes into 3 bars of 4/4. So for that chorus, it's actually, instead of 16 quarter notes, it's 14.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Right.
when
You're
I played...
chopping off a bit, yeah.
Pardon?
You're chopping off a bit.
Yeah. And so when I played the drums, because I was like, fuck, I want to play drums on this one. You know, I never get to play them. the way I had subdivided it when they come in on that second chorus, it's like 2, 4, 4, 4. Next time is 6, 4, 4, and then the third time is 7 and 7. You know, and so it's like when I wrote that again, I didn't fucking realize that was outside of 4, 4, but it's like just like this nice folk song. It's like pretty like airy vibes, but also just kind of like cool like folk vibes, it's just it's just a chill song, it's like that chill guy meme, but it's a song.
That's really taken off, that chill guy. Where the fuck did that come from?
I have no dude, it's literally I've learned about it a week ago.
So did I.
Yeah,
I was like, what is this? Is just how this shit works.
My entire Instagram feed has been like chill guy. And are you across that still water meme?
No. Okay, I'm out of a loop on that one.
Okay, pretty much there's like, if I understand this correctly, there was this TikTok, I don't even use TikTok, but anyway, this TikTok about this dude, like still water, if you find it in like, I don't know, like a bunker and it's just still water, it probably has like algae and stuff, so it's like toxic.
Yeah.
Right. And so this guy was talking about like still water, like that you'd like drink out of or whatever, like just still water. And he was saying, well, if that's still, is that not, and people kind of memed on it. And it's one of those kind of like, if you know things where like people will just post a photo of still water and you'll either get it or you won't because you either do or don't know the reference. So yeah, fucking that's been my feed, bro. It's like literally just like a 3-second clip of somebody throwing a rock into water, and then everyone just in the comments like, if you know, and chill guy.
Memes is like it really is like almost like the modern reference of like modern reflection of culture almost.
Yeah, bro.
It's so strange. But it's like the old Hocktail girl, that's gone now. Done that, on to the next one. And that's like, it just moves so fast.
Yeah.
And then just randomly, like, boom, it'll just be everywhere. Like, that chill guy might have started off as an inside joke.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Suddenly it's like, oh, yeah,
enough people thought it was funny enough and they caught on.
A few accounts and everyone's like, oh, that's funny. And then all the meme makers like,
bit of like sheep mentality as well.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, want to be part of it. Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, yeah, 100 accounts, 1,000 accounts,
Yeah.
10,000 accounts, billion. It's just, and now everyone knows about it.
And
So
the thing is,
funny
well,
how
like,
that happens.
it's not, I guess 9 times out of 10, the meme itself isn't funny, but the like fact that it's a meme is funny. And so like to kind of like, I guess give an example, like I'm a bit of like a back in my day where like I think like the 2014 like MLG era was like the funniest meme like era for memes. But then this year I went back and watched some of the old MLG videos and I was like, this is so boring, bro.
Yeah.
This is so like I mean, yeah, I've just got Snoop Dogg doing this a few times with like the hit markers and like the weed, it's, but like at the time, like that, everyone joking about it made it funny just because it's just stupid. Memes are just fucking dumb, bro.
Yeah. But it's also brand new because that's the other thing. It's like with like that, when the meme cycle refreshes or whatever you want to call it, it'll be like something that you just haven't seen or like the references, or it'll be like some random reference to like a meme that it comes from, then referencing something super niche.
Yeah.
And then that's what I find real out of it with like how, memes can operate, is it can go into any niche. So that's how everyone can know about it.
Yeah.
So it's like, as an example, I'm a big Star Wars guy, obviously. And just the amount of like those crossovers, like even like the chill guy, like when I saw one that someone had made a video with like episode 3 when Anakin kills all the younglings or whatever.
Oh, yeah,
just
yeah.
a chill guy killing
Oh, yo!
just something like that. But I'm just like, fuck, like this shit can just travel.
Yeah,
like,
because it's a format,
like,
right? You just apply it to anything.
Yeah, it just travels like light speed, and suddenly it's in all the niches, and just suddenly millions of people know about it within a week.
Yeah, yeah.
So, I don't know. For me,
there's
I
this-
don't know. My old brain is just like.
You should find this deep cut video. It's this dude basically going on about mangoes. He's mango, and he's just real dumb. But anyway, and then it's a bit of like a niche reference. But then like I saw a reference recently, and it was this Polish dude. He's just driving, listening to like Polish rap, and he like pulls over, like gets out of the car, and the like captions like helping the like elderly or senior citizens or something. There's this old dude with like a Zimmer frame trying to cross the road, and he goes up to him, and you think, oh, he's gonna help him cross the road, and he just holds up this mango, and he's like, mango, and then like the old Polish man's just like, oh, and he's like, mango, and it's so fucking, it's my favorite video I've seen this whole year, but like it's just so stupid because it's like referencing that one niche fucking thing,
And then everyone in that niche will eat it up.
Yeah.
It's bizarre how that works, because I work in marketing and that, and it's always interesting to listen, or like people I don't hear about it much now because I'm not in that sort of industry, but like when there's like social media involved and everyone talks about virality, and I'm like, oh god, this is bad. Because if you want to tap into like memes to popularize yourself, it's a slippery slope.
Yeah.
It's a slippery slope because it's like suddenly that's what your content's gonna be, and then suddenly it's not like legitimate or taken as seriously.
Yeah.
So
You are as relevant as the meme is. So if you identified with the meme and then the meme dies, you have to latch onto a new meme. Like, when somebody makes an account, like, let's say somebody made an Instagram account called Chill Guy.
yeah,
Everyone would be like, they'd follow them just for the meme. But as soon as the Chill Guy meme dies in like a week, like, no one's going to care about that account. So like, it kind of needs to like, you kind of have to make your own memes. But not like following like a current meme format, like if you want to make funny like fucking videos, just like, I don't know, think of whatever you find funny, just do something stupid, take inspiration from somewhere. Like I low key not quite plagiarized, but kind of plagiarized this one video. This Instagram account made this thing where she was like doing a tarot reading and she was just like basically insulting the audience through the tarot cards, and I was like, I fucking love that. I'm gonna make like a gig announcement with that. So I was just like, like, oh, this is the fucking card about how you're like a little bitch and you should come to my gig, or like, whatever it fucking was. But like, but at least I guess if it's not like a particular like meme format, then
yeah,
it's funny because it's funny, not because it's a reference. If you know what I mean.
Yeah, it's funny because the video itself is funny, not just because you're including that reference on it. It's just, I don't know. I'm just moved so I'm getting old too fast for me.
Yeah, bro.
Just within like 3 weeks to a month, but it's I just find it funny with like in the marketing space sometimes. I think people have gotten a bit wiser about it now because I haven't heard the term viral in a bit, which is good. Because trying to do that is really stupid. Like businesses would try and do that a lot as well. Brands, how do we get viral? And so you're going viral for the wrong reasons.
Yeah. I've had mates be like, "Oh, bro, like if you make a video like this and you just get it to go viral, that's what you'll do. That's how you'll get big or whatever." But like, then I get big from X video, not from my music, right?
Yeah. So now you have a bunch of people who expect like you to do something similar from that viral moment. But
that's what they know me as. They don't know me as Stag Zero.
Yeah. And then it's like, well, who have I got? Just a bunch of pointless, not pointless, but people who aren't there for your music or what you originally set up the account for. So then it's like, was that a good idea?
And if you compare it to artists, obviously as an artist, right, who are like very successful in what they're doing, I think Behemoth is an easy example for me to talk about. Sure, in like the 90s, they had their like traditional black metal kind of vibe, but once they kind of went to like black and death metal, that kind of stuff, in like 99 I think is when Satanica came out. I fucking used to like study their discography. 99, and then if like the Satanist came out around 2014, and that's kind of when they started to take off a lot, right? Or at least like into more like the metal mainstream. That's like 15 years, and
it's
so
a long time.
So like it'll happen if you like put in the work and also you're smart about it. Like you could put in so much work and do it really inefficiently, I guess. But if you're smart about it, you take the time to like kind of strategize and think and reflect, and you put in work for a long time. Like that's I guess sustainable success or whatever.
Yeah.
Not that I would fucking know, but
it's for long term, right? And I think I feel like now like often some younger people I've spoken to but don't know if that's just younger people or just some people in general, to be honest. It's just more because everything's so instantaneous with how we use everything, the phone, to how we get information, dopamine, etc.
Yeah.
We all want the instant, and even with success, it's like I want sales now, I want views now. It's just like that's not.
And then they like pay for bots and shit like that.
Yeah, exactly. And I've seen that before with bands and businesses. I've seen it with both, and it's like. That's something else that's very interesting. What was that guy like 10 years ago it was like that metal musician, and he got like a heap of followers and a heap of views, and it was all fake. I've totally forgotten the name of someone. I can't remember. It's like this blonde-haired guy, European fella, made like kind of like this anthem metal music or whatever.
Oh,
but
I'm not sure if I know.
The name has slipped my mind. But anyway, that was a big thing about 10 or so years ago. Well, it was Facebook followers were bots, but it was like, I think a couple of 100,000 and then 10 millions of views on, YouTube. But it's all fake.
And to be honest,
and then people would book him on these gigs
and
and
he
be
wouldn't
like,
have
wow.
people turn up.
No.
That's interesting you say that. And like I think that like not to his defense, but like, you know, as somebody who actually doesn't know the guy or like I didn't follow this, like I can also see how at least if you're like new to it, you could be led astray thinking something was real. Like with an older project, I had this guy reach out to me. He was saying, "Oh, hey, here's how I generate ads and stuff." And I was like, "Oh, cool." I paid him like not that much money, and I got heaps of streams on Spotify for this one song on that
Yes.
old project. And the way he'd explained it, I was like, "Doesn't sound like bots to me. It sounds like real people." But like, I didn't really notice. Like, I noticed all these streams and like no other interaction. No one really followed the account. Is it because the song sucked? Maybe, but I don't think so. You know. And I noticed they all were like all these like for like 2,000 streams between like two countries. And I was just like,
Yeah, it sounds like some bullshit.
yeah, and it's so like I had paid expecting this to be a genuine ad, like you know, ad
Yeah, got
that
you.
was being run, but
Yeah.
so you know, you kind of just learn.
Yeah, you know, it's funny. I had that same experience. When I first got onto Spotify, which would have been 2016 when I released a song on that, and I was like trying to figure out ways of like getting onto playlists, and I was like, I don't think the Spotify for Artists app had come out yet.
Okay.
So I was like, I don't know how does this work? Like, do I need to talk to somebody? And then I got hit up by this playlist called, I guess, Playlist Promotion company. But I read into it, and then the guy messaged me, and we had like quite a few back and forths. And I was like, he's like told me like, oh, I'll put you on playlist, do this, we'll increase the streams. And like he said, it goes on these playlists, and I'm like, where are these streams coming from? And yeah, it's just all bots. And I was like,
And what's crazy is that maybe one or two Stag Zero songs, with two of like the folky ones are on this one dude's playlist. And I probably get like 3 streams a week from that playlist, which isn't heaps,
so something.
but that there has been so much better for my growth as like a brand of musician than all that what I assume was fake stuff. You know, like
Yeah.
I actually might get like maybe one of these people, 3 people a week. Let's say you got like a 1 in 6 chance of appealing to somebody. So like every 2 weeks I get a new follower or something from that,
Yeah.
right? Like
Much better.
yeah.
Yeah, it's all about how you think about it and trying to not have like the mindset of quick wins. I think social media and numbers. I think it happens to all of us. You get a bit absorbed in like, well, I need social proof that I'm legit, so I need X followers, I need X views, and I need X this, and it's like being a bit careful with that. Even with me doing this podcast, I haven't done any paid advertising and stuff because I just don't want to. Because I'm like, I just want to do this organically and just sort of see where it goes. I find that more interesting for myself. But there's sometimes I'm like, I release a video and put a lot of effort in, like probably say like doing a song, right? And then no one really watched it or listened, and you're like, oh fuck, like
yeah, you're kind of building a portfolio though, I guess, you know.
Well, that's it, and you don't know who's watching. I was watching out of all the people a video from Tyler the Creator, who told me he found quite a well-known rapper these days, but he found him on YouTube, and he only had like 10 views a video. And this is a very obviously special case, but he's like, you don't know who's watching, and his explanation was actually really good. It was like, yeah, like you said, you're building a resume, you're building a portfolio. If it goes out there and no one listens, it's like, but you never know who might listen.
Yeah.
And or might find it, or might come across it, or you might share it too. And I'm like, that's true. You just never know. So it's better to have something, have the resume, even if maybe you got 1,000 posts with 50 followers. It's like, well, at least you've got a resume and a lot of work there, and that's better than nothing. So I think it depends on how you look
for
at it.
2 reasons. I think like one for that kind of more like, you know, like business side of it, right? Where you're like, okay, like maybe that one person's going to see it who will, I don't know, progress me. But then also there's the kind of more like artistic side of it. It's like, you know, how I mentioned I wasn't listening to metal for a while because I was like going through that stage of grieving. Around that time when that first happened, I could not listen to music at all. Like I would maybe feel gross and disgusting like hearing music. And so I didn't, except for 2 albums, Realms and The Buried Storm by Darko, right? And so unless I was in silence, I just play those and repeat. And like I don't know how many people listen to Darko. I mean, obviously she's got a fucking big following, but you know what I mean? Like still niche, but like I was one of those one people that like was profoundly impacted by it, you know, like in a way that I'm just like, so I'm very thankful, you know. Obviously she didn't make that for me, you know, but still thankful anyway, right? And so like, you know, as a musician, maybe you don't get a lot of views, but you might have a very big impact on somebody. Or maybe like with you, maybe like you'll have clips of your podcast or something. Somebody will either find a musician through that, which helps them, or maybe they are like, I want to do something like this podcasting, and they like what you're doing, and then that inspires them, and then you're helping them kind of by like leading by example, live their dreams. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's also really awesome. That sort of ripple effect, if you can do that. Yeah, that's also something important to think about. Not getting too lost in the metrics. Yeah. We all need to get better at. All right, bro. I think I might get into some quick fires for you.
Okay.
And we'll call it there. All right. First one, I'd like to ask everybody, what is your craziest gig experience?
Craziest gig experience. Oh man, nothing too crazy. I always get quite awkward on stage. So I mean, I don't know. I end up just kind of roasting my audience a lot of the time. I love when people I know I love when people heckle me because like I don't know what to say between songs. I'm trying to be dark and mysterious, but then I get awkward and just start doing stand-up comedy.
Yeah.
But I think probably like craziest gig experience was just at actually a different band, that metalcore one I mentioned. We needed water so badly, and this really drunk dude was like, I'll give you guys water, and like spilt it on the bassist bass pedal.
Oh, the classic.
Yeah. But no, nothing too crazy.
Nothing too crazy?
Yet.
Yeah, that sounds pretty safe.
I have thought about, I probably won't because it's probably a bit ratchet, but I have thought about pranking some other musicians, like bands I'm going to do gigs with, like while they're during their set. I'm like, what will still like, not take away from their set and not make it all about me, but would still be kind of funny. So I've been scheming.
That's nice. Yeah, it's cool to try and bring out try and play around with the gigs and make them a bit more fun and exciting way, something different. So like as I was on the Doug Fest in Hamilton about a month ago, and one thing that at that gig that made it awesome, I mean also Doug's are just incredible organizers of that, but they had Thief and Zard, these kind of like local MC hip hop guys. So they're not pretty much all the music there was punk, metal, alternative, but they had these rappers there, and they introduced all the bands and just made jokes and fucked around. And I was like, this really elevates it. Because also, let's be honest, most bands introducing themselves aren't very good.
No.
We're not very good at introducing ourselves. But having like an MC or something, it just adds that extra, like, brings people in, like they describe the band or they make a joke or tell you, or they tell you you're a dickhead.
I love being roasted, bro.
Yeah,
like obviously
great.
No one actually likes being genuinely roasted, but fucking like with like one of my old projects, it had this very like couldn't pronounce it, too many consonants in it, and the bro LB from Grim Remedy and I were in the car once, and we drove past this road called Ipswich, and he was like, "Oh, look, it's your band," like that kind of shit.
Yeah. You gotta take that stuff on. It's important. It's important to realize that we're having fun as well.
Yeah.
All right. What's something that you can't eat before a gig?
Eat before a gig?
Yeah. What's a no-no?
Usually anything, because I get too scared and then I can't eat. But definitely. I learnt this the hard way at my most recent gig. Fuck me. I was having crackers, and they just dried my throat the hell out. I had such a dry throat that whole set, bro. Fuck that. What I have learned though, blackberries, eating them out of a can.
Okay.
This
is new to me.
When I played in Grim Remedy, we did this gig in Rotorua, and I had this can of blackberries, and I just fucking gobbled them up, whatever. And I feel like that was one of my better performances in that band. So, yeah,
canned blackberries.
That's my life hack.
Canned blackberries. All right. What's an artist you listen to that people wouldn't expect?
Christina Aguilera was a big one. Fuck yeah.
She's an amazing singer.
She is so good.
Great
if you're
singer.
into not music, not in English, there's this Swedish pop artist called Veronica Maggio. So fucking good. Actually, very, very subtly an inspiration. Not that anyone would like see it.
That's sick.
Yeah, otherwise, I don't know. I think most of my influences, people could see it. Primordial, I fucking love their main. But,
okay.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Christina Aguilera, bro. Stripped and Back to Basics are two of the fucking best albums ever made.
Damn. That's a goodie. Yeah, Christina Aguilera. Cool. What else have I got? What would you say to somebody who wants to start releasing their music?
Just, like, do it, bro, because like you might let's say you've got this band that you have in mind, like, oh, this is my band I'm making or something like that, and you might think like, I'm so passionate about this feels like me, this is my thing. But then like chances are, and maybe not, but chances are like this is not going to be your final band. You know, like I had my thrash band, then I had my kind of proggy black metal thrash one, then I played in Grim Remedy, which I joined after their lifetime for a bit, and they're still playing, which is great. And now I have Stag Zero, and this feels like my kind of final thing. But if I didn't play in those other things, and you know, if I didn't just take it seriously and just release my music, because it's all about growth, right? Kind of don't be too precious about it. You know, this will either be something that is amazing and you're just fucking happy with what you've done, or you won't, but then you'll like grow from it. Like so much of my progression as a songwriter has come from just releasing music, you know?
So much to learn in that process. When getting ready for the studio, what is one of the main challenges you find?
One of the main challenges is I always somehow am like a little bit run down before I go into the studio. I think it's a bit because I just always get shit sleeps the night before the studio because I get nervous and I'm thinking, oh, it needs to be perfect tomorrow. And then I wake up and I'm like dusty, or, you know, maybe I had to be out at something the night before. And then I just can't perform well in the studio. And I mean, it's obviously still good enough quality to release, but yeah, my main challenge is not being fucking rough in the morning.
Yeah. Yeah, but studio's long days. Long days. All right, man. Sweet. Have you got anything coming up you want to tell everybody? Gigs?
Well,
new songs?
Depending on when these clips or this podcast, whatever's coming out, obviously on the 14th of December, I'm playing a gig at Small Gods Tap Room. It's community treatment order, Stag Zero, and we're supporting Shadowless, so go to that. Keep an eye out for more gigs, and hopefully Jan or Feb, and, you know, just an eye out for more music in the new year, because got the first song on my set list is going to be released.
Ooh, new stuff.
If you know, you know.
If you know, you know.
I will say one thing. Come to my gigs, because at every single show, right after we play Funeral, we always do a meme song, and it changes at every gig. We've done Fruit Salad, we've done Scooby-Doo, we've done SpongeBob SquarePants. The next gig, I can't tell you. You just have to show up.
Damn, that's fun. That's fun. All right, bro. Well, thanks for coming on. Appreciate your time, dude.
Thank you.
And wish you all the best of your project.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
Cheers. Thanks, everyone, for listening.